In the cool pre-dawn darkness of a Templar commandery stable in southern France, where the scent of hay and warm horse bodies mingles with the leather and iron smell of tack, a man moves quietly among the stalls, his presence calming the dozen warhorses that shift and breathe in their rest. Each horse recognizes his footstep, his particular voice, the way his hand runs along a neck or shoulder in greeting, and they settle at his approach rather than startling, understanding that this human brings care rather than demands. This is the domain of Brother Guillaume, farrier and stable master of the commandery, a man whose hands know iron and hoof with equal intimacy, whose days are measured not in prayers alone but in the steady rhythm of hammer on anvil, rasp on hoof, and the countless small acts of attention that keep the order's most valuable assets healthy and ready for whatever service they might be called to perform. Welcome to Yawnworthy Jobs for Sleep, where we explore remarkable occupations through soothing stories designed to guide you gently toward restful slumber. Tonight, we follow a Templar farrier and stable master through a complete day's work at a commandery in the year 1290. Witnessing how medieval horsemanship, blacksmith craft, and devoted animal care combined in service to one of history's most disciplined orders. So settle beneath your covers. Let your breathing slow to match the steady rhythm of horses at rest. Perhaps adjust your position to find that perfect comfort, and allow this tale of forge fires and gentle hands to carry you softward sleep. The morning of June 18th, 1290, begins for Brother Guillaume as most mornings do, well before the bells call the community to lauds, for horses do not observe the canonical hours, and their needs cannot wait upon human schedules. He rises in darkness from his small chamber adjacent to the stables, a concession to his role, allowing him to respond quickly should any animal take ill or injury during the night hours. The stone floor is cool beneath his feet as he pulls on his work tunic. Heavy wool dyed the undyed natural color that won't show the inevitable stains of his trade, and wraps his leather apron around his waist, its surface already marked with small burn holes from forge sparks and dark patches where oil and sweat have soaked into the hide. A small gray cat winds around his ankles as he prepares to enter the stable proper, and Brother Guillaume pauses to scratch behind its ears. The cat, one of several that live in and around the stables to control the mouse population, purrs loudly in the quiet morning, a small motor of contentment that seems almost too loud for the hushed pre-dawn hours. These cats serve the commandery well, protecting the grain stores from rodents and providing companionship to the horses, who seem to enjoy their small feline companions curling up in the straw of their stalls. The stable itself is a long stone building with a roof of clay tiles, built with the same solid craftsmanship that characterizes all Templar construction. It houses 12 stalls on each side of a central aisle, each stall spacious enough for the large warhorses that serve as the order's cavalry mounts. The building stays remarkably comfortable year-round cool in summer due to the thick stone walls and high ceiling, and tolerably warm in winter from the body heat of the animals and the insulation provided by stored hay in the loft above. Brother Guillaume lights an oil lamp and begins his first walk-through of the morning, moving from stall to check on each resident. This inspection requires no checklist or written record, for he knows each horse as intimately as he knows the tools of his trade, can spot the slightest change in demeanor or posture that might indicate discomfort or illness. The horses greet him with soft nickers and the rustle of movement, some extending their heads over stall doors for the customary morning greeting, a gentle scratch along the jaw, or a few words spoken in the low, calm voice that horses find reassuring. Tempête, a massive gray destrier who serves as the mount for the commandery's marshal, stands solidly in his stall, his eyes bright and alert, despite the early hour. Brother Guillaume runs his hands along the horse's legs, checking for any heat or swelling that might indicate strain or injury, and finds everything as it should be. Tempêt's coat gleams even in lamplight, the result of yesterday's thorough grooming, and his manner is calm and content, always a good sign in a warhorse, whose temperament can make the difference between controlled power and dangerous unpredictability in the chaos of battle or tournament. In the next stall stands Belle, a dark bay mare with a white star on her forehead, who serves as a riding horse for carrying messages between commanderies. She's lighter built than the destriers, bred for endurance and steady temperament rather than the explosive power needed in mounted combat. Belle turns her head to watch Brother Guillaume's inspection with soft brown eyes, accepting his examination with the patience that makes her ideal for long-distance travel. Her hooves will need attention today. Belle recently returned from a 3-day journey to a neighboring commandery, and the roads this time of year, alternating between muddy from spring rains and rough with dried ruts, are hard on horseshoes. The inspection continues through all 24 stalls, each horse receiving individual attention, each checked for any signs of distress or need. Brother Guillaume notes mental reminders as he works. Tonnerre's right front shoe is working loose and needs replacement. Éclair has a small scrape on his shoulder that should be cleaned and treated. Soleil needs his mane trimmed before it becomes tangled beyond easy management. These observations, accumulated through years of attentive care, form the basis for the day's work plan, a flexible schedule that responds to the animal's needs rather than imposing arbitrary human demands. With the inspection complete, Brother Guillaume begins the morning feeding, moving methodically from stall to stall with measured portions of oats mixed with a handful of barley for energy and condition. Each horse receives an amount calculated for its size, workload, and individual metabolism. Tempête, being largest and most active, gets a generous helping, while Belle, smaller and currently resting after her journey, receives a more modest portion. The horses eat with evident pleasure, the sound of their chewing and the occasional stamp of a hoof creating the familiar morning symphony of stable life. While the horses eat their grain, Brother Guillaume climbs the ladder to the hayloft, where last year's harvest is stored in neat bales that fill the space with their sweet, dried grass fragrance. He selects hay carefully, checking each flake for mold or dust before tossing it down to the stable floor below. Quality matters critically in horse care. Moldy hay can cause respiratory problems or colic, potentially fatal conditions that vigilant, stable management must prevent. The hay he chooses shows the ideal characteristics: green-gold color indicating proper curing, sweet smell suggesting good nutrition, and a texture that's neither too coarse nor too fine. Each horse receives several flakes of hay, enough to keep them occupied and satisfied until their next feeding. Horses, by nature, are meant to graze continuously throughout the day, and providing regular access to forage helps maintain their digestive health and prevents the boredom that can lead to destructive, stable vices like crib biting or weaving. Brother Guillaume has learned through long experience that a well-fed, content horse is not only healthier but also more tractable and willing when called upon for work. The bells ring for lauds, calling the commandery to first prayers, and Brother Guillaume makes his way to the chapel, leaving the horses to their breakfast. The transition from stable to sacred space requires a mental shift, similar to that experienced by the alchemist brother, moving between laboratory and chapel, a broadening of focus from the particular care of animals to the universal worship of the divine. Yet Brother Guillaume has come to see his stable work as a form of prayer itself, an offering of skilled care and devoted attention that honors God through the conscientious stewardship of his creatures. After lauds comes a simple breakfast in the refectory: bread, cheese, and ale, eaten in the customary silence, while a brother reads from Scripture. Brother Guillaume eats with the focused efficiency of someone whose mind is already planning the day's work, mentally reviewing which horses need shoeing, which need grooming, what maintenance tasks the stable building requires, and how to organize these activities most efficiently within the hours of daylight. Returning to the stable after breakfast, Brother Guillaume finds the horses have finished their hay and stand relaxed in their stalls, some dozing on their feet in the way that horses can, others alert and watching the stable aisle for signs of activity. The gray cat has installed itself in a patch of sunlight that streams through the open stable doors, grooming its face with methodical dedication. The morning has warmed enough that Brother Guillaume props open the doors at both ends of the stable, allowing fresh air to flow through and providing the horses with views of the outside world important for their mental well-being, as horses are curious creatures who suffer from the monotony of seeing only four walls. The first major task of the day is attending to Belle's hooves and replacing her worn shoes. Brother Guillaume leads the mare from her stall to the cross ties in the center aisle, where she stands calmly as he secures her, with ropes attached to either side of her halter. The cross ties, a simple but effective system, keep the horse positioned and balanced while allowing the farrier to work safely around her body. Belle knows this routine intimately, having been shod countless times throughout her life, and she settles into the relaxed patience of a horse who understands that standing quietly makes the process faster and more comfortable for everyone involved. Brother Guillaume begins with the left front hoof, running his hand down Belle's leg in a signal she understands, and she lifts her foot obligingly. He positions the hoof on a small stand that holds it at a comfortable working height, then uses a hoof pick to clean out all the packed dirt, small stones, and debris that accumulate in the space between the shoe and the frog, the flexible, V-shaped structure on the underside of the hoof that aids in shock absorption and circulation. This cleaning is meticulous work, for even a small stone left wedged in the wrong place can cause lameness or infection. With the hoof cleaned, Brother Guillaume examines the shoe itself, an iron U-shape nailed to the hoof wall to protect it from excessive wear. Belle's shoes show the expected wear pattern from her recent journey, thinning at the toe where most impact occurs during travel, loosening of several nails, and one nail completely missing. The shoe must be removed and replaced, a process that requires both strength and delicacy to avoid damaging the hoof. Using a nail clincher, Brother Guillaume bends up the portions of nails that have been folded over on the outside of the hoof wall to hold the shoe in place. Then, with practiced leverage using a pull-off tool, he works the shoe free from the hoof, the old nails sliding out as the iron is pried away. The shoe comes off with minimal resistance, testament to the loosening that prompted this replacement, and Brother Guillaume sets it aside for later inspection and possible reuse if it can be reshaped and still has sufficient thickness remaining. The bare hoof now requires trimming, for horse hooves grow continuously like human fingernails and must be regularly shortened to maintain proper length and shape. Brother Guillaume uses a hoof knife to carefully pare away excess sole the slightly concave bottom surface of the hoof, removing dead material while being careful not to cut into the living tissue that lies beneath. This work requires a delicate touch and thorough knowledge of hoof anatomy, understanding exactly where the sensitive structures lie and how much material can safely be removed. Next comes the rasp work, using a large file with aggressive teeth to level the bottom of the hoof and create a smooth, even surface for the new shoe to sit against. The rasp moves in steady, rhythmic strokes, each pass shaving away thin layers of hoof wall and creating a small pile of pale shavings that accumulate on the stable floor. The sound of the rasp, a distinctive scratching rhythm, is one of the characteristic sounds of farrier work, as recognizable as the ring of hammer on anvil. Belle stands patiently through all this, occasionally shifting her weight, but generally accepting the procedure with the calm that comes from positive experiences and gentle handling. With the hoof trimmed and leveled, Brother Guillaume selects a new shoe from his stock iron shoes of various sizes hang on the forge wall, ready to be fitted. He chooses one that approximates Belle's hoof size, knowing it will require some adjustment to achieve a perfect fit. No two hooves are exactly alike, even on the same horse, and skilled farrier demands custom fitting for each individual foot. The forge occupies one corner of the stable building, a substantial brick structure with a hood to vent smoke and a bellows to intensify the coal fire. Brother Guillaume builds up the fire, adding coal and working the bellows until the flames roar with satisfying heat. The shoe goes into the fire, positioned where it will heat evenly, and Brother Guillaume watches with practiced attention as the iron gradually changes color from dull gray to red to orange to the bright yellow that indicates proper working temperature. Using long tongs, he removes the hot shoe from the forge and carries it quickly to the anvil, where the shaping work begins. The hammer falls in measured, controlled strikes, each blow precisely placed to adjust the shoe's curve, width, or angle. The ring of hammer on anvil creates a music that has characterized blacksmith work for millennia, a sound that carries beyond the stable to announce that skilled craft is being practiced. Sparks fly with some strikes, brief bright points against the dimmer stable interior, and the smell of hot iron fills the air, a sharp, metallic scent that's somehow pleasant in its association with productive work. The shaping requires several heatings as the iron cools below working temperature and must be returned to the forge. Between heatings, Brother Guillaume checks the shoe's fit against Belle's hoof, looking for perfect matching of curves and ensuring that the nail holes align properly with the areas of hoof wall thick enough to safely hold nails. This iterative process, heat, shape, check, repeat, continues until the shoe matches the hoof precisely, with no gaps where debris might lodge and no pressure points that might cause discomfort. The final heating brings the shoe to temperature for hot fitting, a technique where the hot shoe is briefly held against the hoof to burn a shallow impression that shows exactly where contact is being made. The hoof wall, being essentially the same material as human fingernails, doesn't feel pain from this brief contact. Though smoke rises and the smell of burning hoof fills the stable, Belle remains unconcerned, knowing from experience that this odd procedure causes no harm. The burn pattern shows Brother Guillaume where minor adjustments are still needed, and he returns to the anvil for a final round of shaping. With the shoe perfectly fitted, it's allowed to cool until it can be safely handled, then positioned on the hoof and secured with nails. The nails Brother Guillaume uses are specialized Farrier nails, slim, tapered, with a beveled point that naturally curves outward as it's driven through the hoof wall, emerging on the outside rather than penetrating into the sensitive inner structures. Each nail is positioned carefully in the nail holes punched through the shoe, then driven home with steady, confident hammer blows that seat it firmly without excessive force that might crack the hoof. 6 nails secure this shoe, 3 on each side, a number that provides adequate hold without creating unnecessary weakness in the hoof wall. As each nail emerges from the side of the hoof, Brother Guillaume twists off its sharp point with the claw of his hammer, leaving a small stub that's then bent down and hammered flat against the hoof wall. These clinches, as they're called, lock the nail in place and create the final secure attachment of shoe to hoof. The process repeats for Belle's other 3 hooves, each receiving the same careful attention: inspection, trimming, fitting, nailing. The work takes several hours, for rushing leads to poor results that can cause lameness or injury. Belle stands patient throughout, occasionally resting a back leg or shifting weight from one front foot to the other, but generally displaying the calm acceptance that makes her such a reliable mount for long-distance travel. By the time all 4 shoes are fitted, the morning has progressed toward midday, and the bells ring for sext. Brother Guillaume releases Belle from the cross ties and returns her to her stall, where she immediately investigates the fresh hay that's been added during her shoeing session. The mare shows no sign of discomfort as she moves, her gait even and sound confirmation that the shoeing was properly done and the shoes fit correctly. After midday prayers and the noon meal, a pottage of vegetables and barley, bread, and Brother Guillaume returns to the stable for the afternoon's work. While shoeing represents the most skilled and critical task in horse care, it occurs relatively infrequently for each animal every 6 to 8 weeks on average, depending on hoof growth rate and work level. The daily maintenance that fills the remaining hours, though less dramatic, matters just as critically to keeping the horses healthy and content. Grooming occupies a substantial portion of each afternoon, for these warhorses must be maintained in peak condition, their coats clean and their hooves picked out daily. Brother Guillaume begins with Tempête, leading the big gray from his stall to the cross ties. The grooming kit comes out a collection of brushes, curry combs, and hoof picks that represent generations of development in horse care tools. The curry comb, a metal or rubber oval with serrated ridges, starts the process, worked in circular motions against the direction of hair growth to loosen dirt, dead hair, and the natural oils that can become sticky and trap debris. Tempête leans into the currying, clearly enjoying the sensation, his eyes half closing in contentment as Brother Guillaume works across his muscular body. This massage-like action not only cleans but stimulates circulation and provides the human handler with opportunities to notice any lumps, cuts, or sensitive areas that might indicate injury or developing problems. Following the curry comb comes the stiff bristled body brush, used with long, sweeping strokes in the direction of hair growth to remove the dirt and debris loosened by the curry comb. Dust rises in small clouds with each brush stroke, visible in the beams of sunlight slanting through the stable windows. The gray cat, having relocated from its morning sunspot, watches this process with apparent interest from its perch on a stall door, occasionally twitching its tail as if considering whether to participate. The soft, bristled finishing brush comes next, bringing up the natural oils and creating the gleaming shine that marks a well-groomed horse. Brother Guillaume works methodically across Tempête's entire body, neck, shoulders, back, hindquarters, barrel missing no area, ensuring thorough attention to every part. The horse's mane and tail receive separate attention with a wide-toothed comb that carefully works through tangles without breaking the long hairs that serve both aesthetic and functional purposes. The tail, especially important for swishing away flies in summer months. Each hoof is picked out with a specialized hook-shaped tool, removing packed dirt and checking for any signs of thrush, a bacterial infection of the frog that creates a foul smell and can cause lameness if left untreated. Tempête's hooves show no such problems, the frogs healthy and the shoes still firmly attached with no loose nails or excessive wear. Brother Guillaume makes note that Tempête will need reshoeing within the next 2 weeks, adding this to the mental schedule that governs his work. The grooming process repeats for each horse in turn. Brother Guillaume moving from stall to stall with patient consistency. Some horses enjoy grooming more than others. Tonnerre, a excitable chestnut destrier, fidgets and shifts unless spoken to constantly in soothing tones, while Soleil, an older gelding who serves as a pack horse, stands like a statue and appears to fall asleep during the process. Each animal receives the same thorough care, regardless of their behavior. For Brother Guillaume understands that consistency in handling builds trust, and that even the most challenging horses deserve patient, skilled attention. Between groomings, Brother Guillaume attends to stable maintenance tasks that accumulate daily. Soiled straw must be removed from stalls and replaced with clean bedding work that requires a pitchfork and considerable physical effort. For each horse produces substantial waste that must be forked out, wheeled in a barrow to the muck heap behind the stable, and dumped. The muck heap itself represents valuable wealth, for horse manure is prized by farmers as fertilizer, and the commandery either uses it in its own fields or sells it to local farmers, creating a small but steady income stream from what might otherwise be mere waste. Fresh straw is spread in cleaned stalls, creating a soft, absorbent bed that provides cushioning for horses who may lie down to sleep and absorbs moisture from urine to keep hooves dry and healthy. The amount of straw matters too little provides inadequate comfort and absorption. Too much creates unnecessary expense and can harbor mold if it remains damp. Brother Guillaume has learned through experience the ideal depth for bedding, a knowledge that comes from observing horses' behavior and hoof condition over years of attentive care. Water buckets in each stall require checking and refilling, for horses drink substantial quantities. A large destrier may consume 10 gallons or more in a day, especially in warm weather or after exercise. The commandery's well supplies clean, cold water that Brother Guillaume carries in wooden buckets, sloshing carefully as he moves to avoid spilling. Some horses drink immediately when fresh water appears, while others ignore it until they feel thirsty, but all appreciate having constant access to clean water, a basic necessity for health that should never be neglected. The afternoon wears on with its pattern of repetitive tasks: grooming, cleaning, watering, checking, observing. To an outsider, this work might seem monotonous, an endless cycle of the same basic activities repeated day after day. But Brother Guillaume finds in this repetition a kind of meditation, a rhythm that allows his mind to rest while his hands perform skilled work, and a deep satisfaction in knowing that each completed task contributes to the well-being of creatures dependent on his care. Around the time of none, the afternoon prayers, Brother Guillaume takes a break to join his brothers in chapel, then returns to the stable for the evening feeding. The horses, sensing the approach of their supper time, become more alert and active, some nickering hopefully as Brother Guillaume appears with the grain buckets. The feeding follows the same careful measurement as the morning, each horse receiving appropriate portions of oats and barley, supplemented with additional hay to keep them occupied through the evening hours. As the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, painting the stable interior with golden light that transforms the ordinary into something almost magical, Brother Guillaume performs a final inspection of his charges. He moves from stall to stall, checking that each horse has adequate hay and water for the night, that no animal shows signs of distress or discomfort, that all stable doors are securely latched, and equipment properly stored. This evening routine provides both practical security, ensuring nothing has been overlooked, and a kind of ritual closure to the day's work, a final accounting before the transition to rest. The gray cat follows Brother Guillaume on this evening round, weaving between his legs and occasionally darting into stalls to investigate rustling straw or pursue some small creature only feline senses can detect. The horses tolerate these feline intrusions with patience, some even seeming to enjoy the cat's company, lowering their heads to touch noses with the small predator in interspecies communication that speaks to some deeper connection between animals who share space and time. The bells ring for vespers, and Brother Guillaume makes his way to chapel for evening prayers, his body carrying the pleasant fatigue of physical labor well done, his mind at peace with the day's accomplishments. The evening light through the chapel windows creates patterns on the stone floor, and the brothers' voices blend in psalms that have marked Christian evenings for centuries. Brother Guillaume prays with particular gratitude for the health of the horses in his care, for the strength to continue serving them well, and for the skill to recognize and address any problems before they become serious. After vespers comes supper, the final meal of the day, followed by a brief period of free time before compline. Brother Guillaume uses this time to visit the forge, where tomorrow's work already beckons. He organizes his tools, hammers arranged by size and purpose, tongs hung on their pegs, rasps, and knives sharpened and ready. The forge is swept clean of coal dust and stray metal scraps, the anvil wiped down to prevent rust. This evening, preparation ensures smooth workflow when morning comes, preventing wasted time searching for tools or dealing with disorganization. Several shoes that were removed earlier from Belle's hooves lie on the workbench, and Brother Guillaume examines them carefully to determine if they can be reused. One is too worn, its iron thinned below safe levels, and this is set aside for the scrap metal pile that will eventually be returned to a blacksmith for reforging into new stock. The other 3 shoes, however, show adequate remaining thickness and could potentially be reshaped and fitted to other horses whose hoof sizes match. This careful economy represents good stewardship of resources, for iron is valuable, and the Order's rule emphasizes avoiding waste and making prudent use of all materials. Before retiring for the night, Brother Guillaume makes a final visit to the stable, carrying a small lamp that casts moving shadows on the walls as he walks the aisle. The horses have settled for the night, some lying down in their stalls, a sign of feeling safe and comfortable, while others stand drowsing on their feet. The building is quiet, except for the sounds of horses breathing, the occasional rustle of movement in straw, and the soft chirp of crickets outside in the summer darkness. Tempête extends his head over his stall door as Brother Guillaume passes, and the farrier pauses to scratch the big gray's forehead, speaking quietly to him in the darkness. These moments of connection, when the day's work is done and peaceful quiet settles over the stable, represent some of Brother Guillaume's favorite times, a sense of accomplishment and contentment that comes from caring well for these magnificent animals who serve the Order so faithfully. The gray cat has claimed its nighttime spot in the hayloft, visible as a small, darker shape against the stored bales, and somewhere in the rafters, a barn owl hoots softly, another of the stable's resident creatures whose presence helps control rodents and adds to the complex ecosystem that exists within and around these human structures. Brother Guillaume stands for a moment in the central aisle, lamp in hand, simply observing this peaceful scene and feeling grateful for his vocation to care for horses, to work with his hands at skilled craft, to serve the Order through attending to its most valuable 4-legged assets. The bell rings for compline, the day's final prayers, and Brother Guillaume extinguishes his lamp and makes his way to the chapel one last time. The night is mild, with stars visible overhead and a gentle breeze carrying the scents of growing things from the commandery's fields and gardens. In the chapel, the brothers gather for the final psalms, their voices subdued now with the weariness that comes at day's end, yet still faithful, still devoted to the liturgy that structures their communal life. In his small chamber adjacent to the stable, Brother Guillaume lies down to rest, his body tired from the day's physical labor but his mind at peace. Through the thin wall, he can hear the horses settling, the occasional stamp of a hoof or soft nicker creating a soundscape that has become so familiar it would be more disturbing by its absence than by its presence. Tomorrow will bring similar work, shoeing, grooming, feeding, cleaning, the endless cycle of care that these animals require and deserve. But tonight, there is only rest, the satisfaction of work well done, and the quiet knowledge that the horses in his charge are healthy, comfortable, and ready for whatever service they might be called to provide. Brother Guillaume's dreams, when sleep comes, are filled with the imagery of his waking hours, horses moving in sunlight, the ring of hammer on anvil, the rasp of file on hoof, and always the sense of connection between human and animal. The partnership that has served humanity since horses were first domesticated thousands of years ago, and that continues in this medieval stable with its Templar horses and devoted farrier. The night passes peacefully, guards walking their rounds on the commandery walls, most brothers sleeping, and in the stable, the horses rest in the security of good care and comfortable surroundings. The gray cat hunts silently through the building, its keen senses alert for any movement that might indicate prey, and the barn owl glides on silent wings through the darkness outside, part of the natural order that continues regardless of human activity or rest. When dawn comes and the bells ring for lauds, Brother Guillaume will rise and begin the cycle again, checking each horse, feeding, attending to whatever needs arise, practicing the patient, skilled care that defines his vocation. The work never truly ends, only pauses between efforts, for horses require daily attention without holiday or exception. But in this constancy lies meaning, purpose, and the deep fulfillment that comes from serving well, from exercising skill in important work, and from the relationship between human and animal that enriches both. The seasons will turn, and Brother Guillaume will continue his work through all of them. Summer's heat, bringing challenges of flies and the need for cooler water. Autumn's harvest, meaning fresh oats and the preparation of hay stores for winter. Winter's cold, requiring extra bedding and vigilant monitoring for signs of chill or respiratory illness. And spring's renewal, bringing young horses to train, and the pleasure of turning animals out to graze in fresh grass. Through all seasons, the fundamental rhythm remains constant: feeding, grooming, shoeing, cleaning, observing, caring. New horses will arrive at the commandery, purchases from breeders or gifts from noble supporters, and Brother Guillaume will integrate them into the stable routine, learning each animal's personality and particular needs. Old horses will eventually age beyond usefulness for demanding work and will be retired to lighter duties or peaceful pasture, their years of service honored by continued care even when they can no longer perform. Some horses will be lost to illness or injury despite best efforts, and Brother Guillaume will grieve these losses while understanding that death is part of life and that his role is to provide good care for whatever time each animal is granted. Young men may come to learn the farrier's trade under Brother Guillaume's guidance, and he will teach them as he was taught, starting with basic hoof care and gradually progressing to the complex skills of forge work and custom shoe fitting. He will emphasize not just the technical procedures, but the deeper principles: patience with animals, attention to small details that indicate larger problems, economy of motion that prevents fatigue during long workdays, and the fundamental respect for horses as sentient creatures deserving of thoughtful, gentle handling. The commandery itself will continue its larger purposes: managing lands, conducting religious services, training knights, supporting the order's missions throughout Christendom, and Brother Guillaume's work will remain one thread in this complex tapestry. Not the most visible thread, perhaps, not the one that attracts attention or celebration, but an essential thread nonetheless, for without healthy horses, knights cannot ride to fulfill their duties, messages cannot be carried between distant commanderies, and the mobility that characterizes Templar operations cannot be maintained. In this way, through skilled and devoted care of horses, Brother Guillaume serves both the order and the broader purposes it represents. His hammer falling on anvil, his rasp shaping hoof, his hands gentling a nervous young horse, all these actions, repeated day after day through years of service, contribute to something larger than any individual task. They represent the accumulated effect of patient, skilled work, performed with dedication and attention, the slow building of expertise and relationship that defines true craftsmanship in any field. As sleep deepens and dreams take Brother Guillaume further from consciousness, the horses in their stalls continue their own rest, some dreaming perhaps of galloping free across open fields, others simply existing in that peaceful state that comes from full bellies, comfortable beds, and the security of safe shelter. The gray cat sleeps curled in its hay nest, the barn owl roosts silently in the rafters, and the stars wheel slowly overhead in their eternal patterns, indifferent to human concerns, yet somehow comforting in their constancy. The work of caring for horses continues across the centuries, the fundamental tasks remaining remarkably consistent, even as equipment evolves and knowledge deepens. Modern farriers still shape iron to fit individual hooves, still use rasps to trim and level, still rely on patient observation to recognize problems before they become serious. The connection between human and horse, That ancient partnership that has served both species so well persists, despite the mechanization of most human activities, enduring because it meets deep needs on both sides: the horse's need for care and the human's need for purposeful work with living creatures. Brother Guillaume's legacy, though he would never think in such terms, lives on in every farrier who approaches their work with patience and skill, in every stable manager who puts animal welfare above convenience, and in every horse owner who understands that these magnificent creatures deserve thoughtful, devoted care. The specific context changes. Templar commanderies gave way to other institutions. Warhorses evolved into sport horses and companions, but the fundamental relationship continues. Human and horse connected through work and care, each enriching the other's existence through their partnership. In the deep hours of night, when sleep is most profound and dreams most vivid, perhaps Brother Guillaume dreams of a perfect day, every horse healthy and content, every shoe perfectly fitted, the forge fire burning at ideal temperature, the weather pleasant for outdoor work, and that deep satisfaction that comes when skill meets need and produces good results. Or perhaps he dreams of horses running free across endless grasslands, their natural state before domestication, a vision of liberty that even the most pampered stable horse might long for in some deep genetic memory. Whatever dreams occupy his sleeping mind, the morning will bring him back to waking reality, the bells calling to prayer, the horses nickering for breakfast, the endless tasks of stable management awaiting his attention. And he will rise to meet these demands as he has every morning for years, finding in the routine not boredom but purpose, not monotony but meaning, not mere work but vocation. The care of horses, the practice of farrier craft, the daily attention to countless small details, these comprise his particular path of service, his offering to the order and to God, his way of making meaning in a world that offers many paths but requires each person to find and walk their own with dedication and skill.